Today on the workbench, we're going to do a quick overview of this RCA RP5435 dual alarm AM/FM clock radio. This radio, from what I could gather, came out around 2011. I'm not seeing much documentation on the internet. I'm not sure how much it sold for originally, but I think around $40. Radio's not too terribly big, has a small footprint. I did not buy this for the AM/FM function of the radio. I actually bought it for the large display for a clock, and that's the only reason I acquired it. We're going to turn it on here in just a moment. Hopefully we can get it to do what I've seen it do, a really cool boot up. Let's go ahead and check out some of the features that it has. I'm not going to go through everything, just a highlight. I will attach the owner's manual to this radio on my website, so ensure you follow the link listed below. That will take you to my website. That way you could download it. It'll be a PDF format, and it'll tell you everything you need to know, not only the functions and the features, but also how to set the clock, which I gotta tell you, took me a little bit to figure out. Let's go ahead and look at the features that this radio has. On the front of the radio, we have silk screening that displays the dual alarm, a sensor which will automatically sense whether it's dark or bright out, and the display will adjust accordingly. A aux light, yes, this does have an auxiliary input, so you could plug in your MP3 or other device. I do not have such a device, so I will not be able to demo that. Let's just use our imagination, shall we? Pretty plain otherwise on the face. Back in the 90s, there was a term that was used in computers, in the computer field, and it was simply KISS, K-I-S-S. That's an acronym for Keep It Simple Stupid, and that's essentially what they've done here on the front, and I like that. On the tippy top, we have our radio on/auxiliary. So this is how you toggle over from the radio to your MP3 or your really cool Crosley turntable. I don't know. We have a reverse. This is navigation for your clock and your alarm clock. Nice big chrome plated, why chrome, I don't know. Snooze button, a forward button, again navigation for your alarm and your clock, and a off button, and this turns off your radio. On this side, nothing, along with here, nothing. On this side, we have our volume, and then we have our tuning control. Let me see if I can get it in there we go. Our volume, our tuning, and this is our input for auxiliary. On the bottom here we have a battery port for 2 AA's for your memory backup, and if the radio is not plugged into AC outlet, your alarm will still buzz. That right there is the hole for the buzzer. When you look in it, it almost looks like it's a 1/4x20 screw for a tripod. I can't see why you'd put that on a tripod, so that's got to be the buzzer. And then of course our tags and our barcode. On the back here, we have a nice big speaker, another tag, our AC outlet cord. On the back top, we have our sleep button, a nap button, our various controls for our alarm, and you set it on either wake 1 or wake 2, this first decimal right here, and that's how you set your clock. So 2 clocks, 2 alarms. And you have your choice of how do you want to be woken up, with a buzzer or with the music. A little closer look of the controls. Guess I could have zoomed in with the camera. Next thing we're going to do is turn off our bench lights. Lights on behind me, but it appears that it should be dark enough that we could see the display come on. Now I'm going to hit the switch on my isolation transformer, at which time the display should kick in. So here we go. Didn't happen that time. What has happened last several times I've turned it on, the display actually has this really cool round whatever. Now what's interesting, the radio, when I turn it on, oh, you know what? I forgot to go through the rest of the controls. I do apologize. So let's do that now, shall we? Back side, we have our controls for daylight savings time. As you can see, it is switchable on off. We have our different time zones. We have Alaska time zone, we have Hawaii time zone, we have Atlantic, Eastern, Central, Mountain, and Pacific. When you first plug this in, turn this on, it defaults to Eastern. It has the dimmer control on and off. And on this side, we have our switch for AM and FM. Pretty good size. So if you're blonde or blind, you might be able to see that. So looking at the display here, this little light right here indicates that we have daylight savings turned on, and there it's off. We'll turn the dimmer sensor on and off, and you see how nice and bright that got. The switch on top turns the radio on. So there's the clock, and you can see that we're on AM. And watch this. I'm sure it shows. There we go. Look at that. You notice that? Look at that frequency. I have seen it on cold start to actually read something like 1772, which is pretty amazing. And when you go to change the time, look how pathetically slow that is. It wasn't until I started playing around and reading the manual that we find that, put it all the way over there, then you have a normal clock, which is where I'll be running it. I don't plan on using the AM/FM radio feature of this radio, as this will be already sitting on my Sony radio that we saw not too long ago that I did a complete recap. So as you can see, we have AM and kilohertz, and I find that tuning this radio, because of such a tiny control knob, it's really hard to get an exact frequency. And do you also notice the display? It's in single hertz steps. Not +5, or I'm sorry, not 5 or not 10. It's in singles, which I find is kind of odd. But if you go to other countries where they don't use our scheme, then I could see where that would work out just fine. I find AM radio to be pretty responsive, but it's still a challenge to get it on an exact frequency. But I mean, you dork around long enough with it, you can get it. So let's go over to FM. So that's all the way at the bottom of the band. Not 88 like you normally would see, but 86. So again, the same issues on AM as FM. Challenge to get an exact frequency. That little tiny knob, that's the high. To activate the auxiliary input, the same button that activated the radio to turn on is the same for the auxiliary. And when you turn it on, little light right there pops on. To turn the whole radio off, you hit this button. Now I just hit the button to turn on the alarm for this side, or we could have the radio. If I switch to function number 2, well, I could have that set there. And as you can see, each one could have a different form of waking you up. One other thing it has, that's right, a nap feature. The nap feature can be controlled at a length of desire. To cancel that, you just hit the nap button again for about 5 seconds. And that button was the wake button. That's essentially it in the handbasket. Like I said, just a quick review. Download the PDF for the owner's manual so you could learn how to properly control the radio. One other thing of notation, the owner's manual says it's good for about 4 watts of draw power. I actually find it to be less than that. In idle, I'm getting 2.1, and with it on all the way up, it got to about 2.3. So definitely well below what they're calling. As far as loudness of the radio, so this is how loud the radio gets. This is full blast. Guess I got in a hurry and I forgot to mention a couple other things. For antenna, it uses the line cord for FM radio. For AM, of course, it has its standard antenna inside. The case is really good solid plastic. It has good weight to it. Wouldn't want to drop it on your foot. Newer models of this radio came with a black case, a wall wart, a USB jack, charge your phone or play music. I like the black a lot more than the silver. At this point, would I recommend this? Yeah, I would. Shouldn't be too terribly hard to hardwire a external antenna on it if you so desire. Well, I think that's all I have on this RCA clock radio. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll catch you in the next one.